everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. We got a jam-packed schedule, so we're gonna get going. For guests and visitors, my name is Steve Perley, Club President. I'd like to welcome you all to the 33rd meeting of the 47th year of the Dublin Worthington Rotary Club. Today's invocation and pledge allegiance will be offered by Shirley Lambert.
Let us pray. We pray for the innocent who live in the shadow of war in the Ukraine, especially the frightened children. We pray for all those who have already lost their lives as victims of human cruelty. Enfold them all in the embrace of your compassion, healing, and everlasting life. We pray for the 46 Rotary clubs in the Ukraine, that our fellow Rotarians will unite and be protected from war. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible.
Thank you very much, Shirley. Thank you, Shirley. President-elect Teresa, please introduce any Rotarians or guests.
Alan has a guest with us today.
I do have a guest today, everybody. This is Scott Morris. Scott found us on the website, I think, and thinks that maybe being a Rotarian would be a good idea. He's recently relocated here back to Dublin from Cincinnati after 40 years with General Electric. So, welcome, Scott.
Yeah, welcome. Do we have any other guests? Our speaker, but she will be introduced later. Okay, then our sergeant, Mr. Phil Giesler, take it away.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to beat up on people and tell them how good they are. Let me just do this. How about that? Sorry about that. Welcome, and we're looking forward to a lot of more faces here, and that's great news and happy dollars in itself. However, to those people who are here and would like to, and online, John Butterfield, would you tell us if you have happy dollars? A way of expressing, in a way of finding our members to let them talk about good things in life as opposed to being not too bad. I think Dick had one first. Dick?
I have a happy dollar. I had 2 unsolicited testimonials about how good our poinsettias were this year. So I'm throwing $1.
Congratulations. In order to make this legitimate, Dick,
Yes.
carry the pot. So,
Do I get to keep the $1 then?
no, you can put another dollar in. But we appreciate that very, very much and the great job that you and the rest of the committee did to have a record success this year.
Yes, I haven't heard the final net income yet, but hopefully.
Hopefully. Okay, yes. Mr. Rice, please.
Yes, my grandson, who is 12, played on the 12 and under Worthington track team, and they made it to the state championship this last weekend. Lost, but they played 5 and played very well. I was proud of them. So
Congratulations, and would you care to mention and guess how many games of soccer you've watched since 19?
First of all, that's basketball, but I have watched more basketball games than any 10 people in this room.
Probably true. Probably.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with these IDs.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes, Mr. Katz, sir.
Well, I'm going to put in a few dollars. One, I'll put in one for Tom because he mentioned the basketball, but he did not mention that this is the anniversary of 100 points scored by Wilt to Still.
Oh, my God.
On this date in 1999, I believe. There's one. 2.
Had to be before that, Jerry.
Yes.
Okay, pick another date, whatever the hell you want. If you pick another date, put in another $1. This $1 is because I'm extending I'm extending the grace period for all of your dollars that you did not put in when you were on Zoom, or you just didn't have enough money, or whoever was carrying the pot scorned you, or whatever. So we're extending that, but you better get in, because I'm only extending it for another week. Okay? There's that dollar.
This goes toward next week, just sort it in. Good job, Jerry. I like the way you make it a 2 or 3 banger. And the other, Roger Johnson right here.
Alan, where's your?
Well, we'll get Alan in a second. We can do it, Roger.
You're on, Roger.
It will see you all in April. We're heading to Florida in a couple of days.
That's very good. That's very, very, very good. That's good time. Good time. Alan.
If Jerry will loan me 2 happy dollars, because I don't happen to have any with me, I'm really happy to report that my daughter got married in Florida last week.
It's good for anybody to join the institution.
That's good.
Thanks, Jerry.
Very good. Yes,
It
Tom.
was March 2nd, 1962, when Will.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Another dollar.
Happy dollars. Happy dollars. Yes.
My granddaughter cheers team is second in the state of Ohio.
Wow.
Cheering.
Wow. Congratulations.
I'll put in, I only have 2, but I'll put in 5 in case I owe any money, Jerry.
Okay.
$2. $1 is that Andrew is not between jobs anymore. Andrew, he took over the Arbor Day project from me and done a great job. We lost his school, but he gained his school, so good job.
Congratulations. Thank you, Andrew. And thank you very much for putting in 5 instead of paying for your past debts. And the other happy dollars. Yes, Ro. Ro is going to travel to Van Wert, Ohio.
I just had to cancel my trip. I was supposed to be going to St. Petersburg. Really sad. So I'm really happy because I'm gonna steal Steve's thunder a little bit. Yesterday, I met with Perry Middle School Interact students, and we are going to officially launch our second Interact Club at the middle school. And I'm gonna have Steve sign the papers today and submit it to Rotary International. So we will have a second club, which also means that I need more help. So if anybody is interested, please let me know. But I'm excited that we have a middle school club.
That's fantastic. Scott, Ro, you've done with that.
There are some commercialized interests that we hope are held at bay.
Hang up on that phone code.
You don't need it. And primary consideration.
Yeah, for $500.
Yes.
There we go.
I win. Okay, let me get this on. Okay, anything else? Well, 2 things. Oh, yes.
I'll put in a happy dollar for my new Rotarian friends.
Well, you're very kind. That's very, very kind of you. To that end, we're going to talk a little bit real quickly about because we're packed today, and I want to hear a lot of what goes on in the program. But we're packed today with other things, and that is for the last, Paul, how long has this been going on? For the last 6 months to 8 months, maybe 10 months, maybe a year. You've been interviewing members of the club for membership spotlight. How long have you been working on that, Paul? No, you're muted.
Attorney's
A little bit over a year, I think.
A little bit over a year. Great job. And it's your responsibility, our responsibilities as members to know what each member spotlight was about. And so we get to know our fellow members. To that end, today will be the first time that we have a little quiz on a member. And those of you who don't get the answer, obviously, will fess up economically, unless you've already maxed out your $2. So this particular member has some things. Here are some hints. And if you get it right, then so be it. The day is over. This particular member, I'm going to start with a couple of them. There's a person that member would like to talk with if they had a chance. Choose anyone. First one would be Queen Elizabeth. Now, what member in this club would like to talk with Queen Elizabeth? Let's look at this row right here where Kip is. Kip, Court, Roger, Mike. Just put out the dollars. Okay. So absent of that, how about an easier one? The second person this person would like to talk with is Warren Buffett. Think now.
Same person.
The same Rotarian would like to first talk with Queen Elizabeth. Second, Warren Buffett. Are you bringing that and stand on it so you can see? No. Okay, so that's the second person that is identified with our Rotarian friend. The third person would be George Washington. Lots of George Washington. And we're going to ask Mr. Rice's table, which goes all the way over to Rome. Whoops, to give that answer. Correct. So none of you have that, and all of you, if you haven't already maxed out, max it out. And the third thing, as I disappear into the ground again.
Could you buy Dick $1? His phones went off.
Uh-oh. I'm not gonna do that. The other thing would be, just to make it so easy, you don't have to worry about it, and then I'm gonna find George's table for this. Not the speaker, please. But to make it awfully easy, and that is, the person was brought back to membership by Roe and John Butterfield. Was brought back to Dublin, Worthington. Are you in the service table? No, I'm talking to Dr. Norris, who's and Alan Russell. George, no answer. Get your money out.
Yeah, find George. And
it is true. Teresa Russell is the person we've been talking about, and we'll have more information a little bit later. By the way, she also wants to go to Turkey, but you can't do that today either. Sorry.
Turks and Caicos.
Okay, and Caicos.
No.
Okay, thank you all. Bye.
thank you very much, Bill. Appreciate it. Oh, here's your papers, your business papers. All righty, moving right along. We've got a lot of announcements. But I want to make mention that we do have another visiting Rotarian, Emily Biondo. Got it. She is looking to transfer to our club from the Marietta Club. So thank you for being here today. Oh yeah, we got to do the one clap welcome. I love the one clap welcome. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Here we go. Welcome.
That was a good one. All right. Announcement. So first announcement is we have our satellite club, information session tonight. It will be here, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. There will be food, drink. I think there's some beer and wine in my office that I can bring over to entice people to come. Really, there's not really going to be any decisions being made. It's more of just a discussion so we can get some, understanding of what the club feels about this, good or bad. And then we'll take it from there.
Can we Zoom?
Yes, if you want to Zoom, I can send out a Zoom. Okay, I will send out a Zoom. Next, 4th of July steering committee. We're probably 120 so days from the 4th of July. A number of you have reached out to me to say that you were willing to participate in that steering committee. Some of you who have very important knowledge for that have not reached out. So please consider letting me know if you're available to do that. I would like to get a meeting about that in the next week or so. Okay. Food drive.
The food drive is still on schedule for March 26th. I'm going to send out another volunteer sign up sheet. Please sign up. Thank you.
Follow everybody around. Okay,
I
guys,
just do this.
beautiful day today. And y'all know when I come up here with antlers on or a Santa Claus hat, it's time to buy gifts for kids. And when I come back with my Rotary hat, you know, it's time to kick cancer's butt. And that's what I'm here today. Steve's kind enough to let me have take collection again to the month of March. I wanted to let you know, I've talked to some of the our representatives at the James Cancer Center. Erin Sauter, I talked to her the other day. I've been online with a few others. And next week, Steve's gonna let me show a 10-minute video. And that'll explain to you a little bit about where our funds are going. Give you a little bit more insight into that. I did wanted to share too that we are at $223,436.46 in our endowment with the James. And throughout our time at the James with our endowment, we have donated over $102,000 for cancer research. So give yourselves a hand for that. The more we make, the more we give, right? But it's our Rotarians teaming up to kick cancer. So I have information for you later on. But bless your hearts, I appreciate you donating. So I'm passing my hat around and we'll collect every week. Just on. Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Oh. I tried. Who else? Rob. Yes.
I already shared my first announcement with
Passing that
you.
hat around for kick cancer.
I already shared my first announcement with the announcement that we're starting the second Interact Club at Perry Middle School, which I am really excited about. But I wanted to talk to you, thank you. What I wanted to talk to you about today is, some of you may know that our district conference is coming up April 8th and 9th at Cherry Valley Lodge in Newark, Ohio. On the Friday of the conference, I have, as youth service chair for our district, I have been charged with organizing a youth peace and leadership symposium. It's a full day event for high school students, and I am looking for high school students. I've already reached out to our Worthington Kilbourne High School, but if any of you have nieces, nephews, grandchildren that they don't have to be a Worthington school or Dublin school member or student, our club is looking to sponsor them, and we will pay their way to go. Of course, they have to get there and get back. And they have to arrive around 8 o'clock on Friday morning and will be done around 3:30, 4 o'clock. So transportation is on their own, or their parents, of course, but we are definitely looking, our club has agreed to sponsor students, so please think about who you might think might be interested in something like this. I'm bringing in a phenomenal speaker. We're going to have fun activities. It's going to be very interactive, and I'm really excited about it. So I just hope we can get the students there. I know it's a school day, but this will be worthwhile. So please think about some young people that might be worthy of this opportunity. Thank you. Thanks, Ro.
Thank you, Ro, for putting that on. I know it's a tremendous effort, and also for everything you've done for the Interact Club. You're amazing.
One more quick announcement. I just want to say thank you to all of you who stepped up for My Very Own Blanket project. It's the All Ohio President-elect training class that is responsible to get this off the ground. And we have 61 cash donated blankets and 5 make my own so far. And there will be news to come later that the club may do something additional. So thank you all very much.
All right. Nick or Don? Nick's not here. Don, I don't know if you're available, if you want to make an announcement about Slate Hill, or I can do it. I know you guys are looking for volunteers. Maybe next week. All right.
Is that me?
No, that was Don Motley.
Okay.
John, do you have an announcement?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, great. I think that's enough for announcements. We've covered a lot. So without further ado, I think, George, if you would be so kind to introduce our speaker.
Thank you. It gives me pleasure today to introduce Johanna Windrick. Johanna has been in a weekly Bible study for the last 4 or 5 years. And
Add a zero.
what?
Add a zero to that.
About 20 years, I guess. And in January, she shared a little bit about her background. And let me see. After her talk, we stayed around for about another 20, 30 minutes asking about it. It was fascinating. And my thought then a couple of days later is being on the program committee, this might be a real good program. And that we had difficulties. Lynn was program chairman this last 3 months, and we changed her 2 or 3 times in speaking because things got mixed up. And I think it's just almost a miracle that a week after another world war started. Thank you. Another world war started, possibly, and so Johanna is going to share what she went through and her family went through, and give us an idea of what people are going through there now today. And Johanna is should be my notes that I had left. She has this fascinating story and insights into that. She agreed to share it with us of the Rotary group. The timing is just very appropriate, I think. No doubt, many Ukrainians are experiencing just, I think, maybe even a little worse. It's the weapons that they use today are a lot different than they were back then. So I'll be glad I come in and come up and let's make sure. Oh, sure.
There we go. Pocket maybe?
No, I can hold it.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay. George, thank you for that very nice introduction. And thank you to all of you for the opportunity that I can share with you my experiences from when I was a baby until now. So I was born in 1944 in Sudetenland, which is a German-speaking area within the Czech Republic now. It used to be Czechoslovakia, but now it's the Czech Republic. And Sudetenland had gone through some turmoil. They belonged to the Czech Republic, and then when Hitler came in, it belonged to the Germans, and then after the war, it went back to Czechoslovakia. So my family there, on my father's side, there were 7 children, plus my grandmother and my grandfather. And my mother's family was in a different area of Austria, so they were not involved in this at all. But so we had a house in Svitovi, which is the little town just south of Prague, where I was born. And we had a couple of businesses. My uncle had a carpentry business. One of my aunts had a custom clothing business. Then there were a couple of teachers. So we all lived there together in this house. And then when the Russians came in after the defeat of the Germans, and it became Czechoslovakia again, then the Russians came in, and my mother said it was very scary because when the Russians came in, they were very brutal people. They hacked our furniture in our house. They poured ink on the carpets. But one thing was they loved children. So when my mother carried me on her arm, then they always left her alone and they didn't harm her. So anyway, so then it was decided that we had to go back to Germany since it belonged to Germany there. And so we had to pack up and we were put on a kind of a cattle train with only the things that we could carry. We had to leave everything behind, just what we could carry on our own person. And we had to go to Germany. And there we came to a very small town north of Frankfurt in Germany, in Hessen is the area. And so we all lived with different people. They had to take us in. And I'm sure they were not happy about having to take in all these refugees, had to alter their lifestyles a bit to accommodate us. So my mother, my brother, and we lived in 3 different places in that little town. The first place we lived in, my mother said that mice were running over her face in the middle of the night. And because it was close to where all the garbage and all the stuff from the cows and the pigs were. So there were a lot of mice. And we kept our flour and our sugar in linen bags in drawers. And my mother said whenever she would take one out and lift it up, it would just run out because the mice had been eating on it. So then we went to a different place and we stayed there for a while, and then the third place, so 3 different people had to take us in. My other relatives, my grandmother and one of my aunts, they lived in the school, and all the other relatives lived in different houses. And eventually there were 7 children in the family, and 6 of those children were all in that little village where we sent to. And my father, who had been in the service, he went to Austria. He was never with us. He was off on his own. So we were by ourselves, and it was, I can't say that I had a really bad time, because as a child, you really don't know how bad things are, because you have your family around you and they take care of you. But anyway, so then the Czechs decided we had to go to Austria because my father was in Austria. So we had to go there. So we were evacuated, my mother, my brother, and I. We came to Vienna. And my father lived in Vienna. And so my mother and my brother and me, we went to the place where he worked. And she said, here we are. And he said, I have no time and no money. My father never took responsibility for my brother and me and my mom. So she was completely on her own, trying to find a place to live. And so for a while, we lived with different relatives in Austria and in small villages. And she was going to Vienna on a weekly basis, trying to find a place for us to live. So eventually she found a small place. It was the size of half a garage, where we lived for almost 10 years. And so this place had no running water inside the room. There was running water in the hallway that we shared with 12 other people. And in this building, it was an apartment building about 3 stories high. There were several businesses. There was a candy store, there was a butcher, and there was a painter that painted signs for offices and businesses. And we shared one toilet with all these people. And I remember we cut up newspaper to use as toilet paper. And so this butcher that was there, he was making sausages and stuff. And at the end of our room, it was a very narrow room, half the size of the garage. And at the end of it, the butcher had his sausages hanging to dry. So when we looked out, we saw a bunch of sausages hanging there. And so anyway, the room was very damp. There was some wallpaper on the wall, but it all crumbled and it was bad. So there was only room for 2 beds in this room. So my brother had to go to a Catholic boarding school north of Vienna, in a city called Retz. And so he was there, and I stayed with my mom because I was the younger one. He was 4 years older than me. So, and I think it damaged him, this separation, that he was kind of, sent away. He was never able to really accomplish anything in life. He was kind of wandering and didn't really know what to do with himself. He had some illegitimate children, and it was just not a good situation. And looking back on it, I think it may have been because of his childhood, because he was sent away. He was probably felt disbanded. So anyway, we stayed in this house for a long time, and my mother in this room, I should say, room in this house. And so my father had started divorce proceedings against my mother some years before, and it dragged on for about 5 years because there was so much ugly things back and forth with them. And so then at the end, when the judge was going to read the verdict, and so he was looking at this paperwork and he saw that they were married in 1938. And they were just married in the church and not in the registrar's office. So he said, well, your marriage is not right. It's illegitimate. So we became illegitimate children. We had to change our name to my mother's maiden name. I was 14 years old at that time. So it was a big, it was just unbelievable that this can actually happen. So from one day to the next, I was called by a different last name in school. And then my mother remarried. She met a man and she remarried. And he worked for the Austrian Railway. So we got an apartment that was built by the Austrian railway system, the other end of town, completely on the other side of Vienna. But there we had 2 bedrooms, we had a kitchen, we had a bathroom. Oh, I just want to also mention, when we lived in our garage room, there was no bathroom, so we had to go to a public bath to take a shower. So anyway, in this new place, we had our own bathroom, kitchen, 2 bedrooms. It was fantastic. We actually weren't used to living like that, but we got used to it. The only negative thing was that I had to take the train to school. I had to be half an hour on the train to go to school. So that went on for several years. And what happened next was my stepfather was abusive, and to my mom and to me. And my brother was in Retz in his home there. He never lived with us. So when I turned 18, I couldn't get out the door fast enough, and I went to England. And I became au pair there, and I went to school, and I was au pair. In the first place I was a little town called Macclesfield, and it was close to Manchester. And I was not happy there because the people, they spoke this dialect, and I was there to. And eventually a place was found for me in London with the family, and I was there several years. So while I was in London, I met my husband, and so we were married in London. And then he already knew that he was going to come to the United States because one of his friends that he worked with in Cologne in a hotel had come to the United States. And he said, you need to come. They need people here. They need people who know how to cook. They need chefs. So we applied for immigration visa at the American Embassy in London. And was constantly going there and filling out paperwork and being interviewed. And in those days, immigration, his was from Germany, and there's only so many could be allowed. But also in those days, you had to have a sponsor to come into the country, and you had to have a job. Otherwise, there was no coming into the United States. So
What year was that?
that was in 1966. We got married in London in 1965, and then in a registrar's office. So just make sure. And then we went to, and then 2 months later, we got married in a church in Vienna that my mom had arranged. And then we were there for a short time, then went back to England. And from there, then we waited to get our visa. And so anyway, we came over here to Columbus, Ohio. We came from London, which was the capital of the world at that time. Everything was happening, fashion, music, cultural things. We came to Columbus, Ohio, it didn't have a decent airport. You know, it was shocking. It was absolutely shocking. I went to work for the Simmons Company on Kinnear Road. And we didn't have a car in the beginning, and we lived on Northwest Boulevard, Star Road down the corner. And so we would walk to Kroger to get our groceries and carry them, and people would stop and say, can we give you a ride? Can we give you a ride? So, but it was a short time, and we were used to walking, you know. So anyway, that's how we started out in Columbus. But I must tell you, I was in shock for about a year before I could get used to Columbus at that time. And then the food, we didn't have any decent bread, there was no decent bakery here that we were used to. And all of this has changed so much now, and we have all these things. But so my husband worked for the Sheraton Columbus in downtown, and as a chef. And then I worked for Simmons Company. I also worked for Lazarus for a while. And then from there, we went to Chicago. He was in the hotel business. And so anyway, I just wanted to mention also the reason that we actually were able to come is because the United States were lacking culinary people. So we were able to come because they were looking for chefs. And so there were 4 other came with us. There were, well, 3 of us all together that came, and we had to have a sponsor, which was a dear friend. And he worked for Sheraton also. He had started there a couple of years earlier. And so he became our sponsor, and his family, he married an Italian girl. Maybe you might be familiar with the Guzos. They had a construction company, and they built 315. And so the Guzos became our new family over here. We were invited to a Sunday dinner every week with them, and we became part of their family. And it was just wonderful that, you know, we as strangers became part of that family. So from there, we went to Chicago, and my husband worked then in Tucson. We were there for a few years in Kansas City. We were there for 12 years. And then this Theo Stylen, he started a hotel chain, the Victorian Inn downtown, was on Front Street. And he asked Enrico to start a chain of restaurants called the Victorian Inn. And so he did that. He started several ones, but it eventually went under, it didn't work out. So then he started working for another hotel company, and now he is a contractor. He does anything to do with house. You need something repaired, he can do it. He's very handy, and he's self-taught, but he's mastered all of these things. So I did not feel that I wanted to become a citizen for many years, because I felt such a loyalty to Austria, because they had given us citizenship after we were expelled from Germany. They're the ones who gave us citizenship, and I felt very loyal to them. So it took me a long time, but 20 years ago, I became a citizen. And I must tell you, that path was absolute gut-wrenching for me, because first of all, I had to have it in my heart to do it. So the first time I went to this office, I had to have my paperwork ready, and I went to this office and I sat across from that lady and I started crying. And she said to me, "You're not going to become a citizen today, you don't need to cry." But it was such an emotional thing to me to become an American citizen that it just, it was so emotional. So then it took a while to get all of this paperwork done. And then on the day when I actually became a citizen, our daughter went with me, and of course my husband, and we were, before the judge made us citizens, we were secluded in this room with all the other people. And I remember it was under George Bush when he was president. And they started playing, "I'm proud to be an American." Well, I tell you, I absolutely lost it. I cried the whole time during that thing, and I cried when the judge, we were all in this big room, and the judge declared that we were citizens, and I was falling and falling. And he said, "Why are you crying? You're the only one who's crying." I said, "This is such a big step in my life. I'm becoming an American citizen." And so anyway, then we went out to lunch, and it was awkward. So since then, my family is here. We have two children, Andrew and Alexandra. Alexandra lives in Dublin, and our son Andrew lives in the state up north. Can you imagine? But they both went to Ohio State. Andrew has an engineering degree, and Alex technology degree. They're both doing really well. We have 3 grandchildren. A girl, 16, and 2 boys, 21 and 23. The oldest boy is at the University of Kentucky. He's graduating the 2nd time. He has a chemical engineering degree, and then he has one in an MBA. And the other one is just finishing up in Michigan in a small college close to Grand Rapids, where my family lives up there. And the youngest one, she got her driver's license when she was 16, and she got her car right away. Whereas the boys, they didn't want to. They were reluctant to drive right away, but she was right in there. So she's driving. And so anyway, we live in Worthington in Riverlea. We've lived there since 1984. We love where we live. We love our neighbors. We love our country. So if you have any questions about
What did you do?
Well, I worked at Siemens Company, at Lazarus, and then I was, now I'm a realtor with Coldwell Banker and Northville. And so I've been there 25 years. We're all doing okay. Yes, we're great. This country has been great to us. We're thankful that we can live here. Considering where we came from and how we lived, it is hard for me to even imagine that we lived under those circumstances in a size of a room, half of the garage. We had everything in there. We had a small coal oven to keep the room warm, and we had a 2-burner gas ratio, and there was a little indentation there at the end of this, where put a curtain up, and behind there we stored our coals to heat our little room. And there were 2 beds, one after the other, my mom's bed and then mine, and there was a wardrobe on this side, and then there was the cooking thing. And as I said, the water was in the hallway, toilet was in the hallway, and it was interesting, with all these people.
Maybe I missed it. How did you guys end up at Columbus? Like, why not some other part of America?
Because my husband's friend had come to Columbus. They had worked together in Cologne at the Hotel Excelsior, if that means anything to you. And so he had come already to Columbus, and we worked for Sheraton, and he sponsored Enrico and 2 other people, and that's how we came here. Yeah. I think we were just lucky to come here.
What did your mother do for money?
My mother, well, I'm sure there was some kind of help from the government, but she worked. She worked for a family that owned a butcher shop, not the one in the house where we live, but another one. And she took care of their household, and if they had a small child, she took care of them, and that's how she earned her money. And we always had plenty to eat because it was a butcher shop, so we got a lot of food from there. Yeah. But well, I think I mentioned to you all the stores that were in the building that we lived, and
I had the privilege of a Rotary exchange daughter from Austria, so we had the opportunity to go over and visit. Beautiful country. We went to Eisenstadt. You know where that is?
Yes.
Yes, beautiful area.
So how long did she stay with you?
We were just over there for 2 weeks. She stayed with us for a year.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah, she's actually an attorney now in Austria.
Very good. And do you have any other questions? Is there any?
What food do you miss most from where you grew up? Any favorite dish or anything?
I make it.
Your husband has it.
I mean, the only thing that we were missing was good bread when we first came. Because there were not the bakeries that we have now. And
1964 was the same way when we moved from Chicago.
I came in
What is
83
this?
and it was good bread.
You had mushroom white bread is all you could
yeah,
eat.
right. And then, I mean, it was. I always said this white bread is only good to keep the window panes in. You can use it around the window panes to keep it because it was so natty and soft. Yeah, not good. So, yeah. Anyway, but I think I want to say that we came to this country the right way. We took the right steps, and it wasn't immediate. I mean, we went through all these hoops that we had to go, but we didn't just walk into the country, we did it the right way, and it's unfortunate now that that is not like that anymore.
So Joanne, I have a question. So we're watching the Ukraine situation is so distressing to all of us, but I imagine it's more painful to you seeing this, how this country is being treated. Do you have any insights or things you want to share about that?
Well, it makes me very sad what these people have to go through. I mean, losing your home and having to walk away from it. I mean, I can empathize with that. But at least we didn't have the bombing because we lived in an area that was countryside pretty much. Italy is a very small town. And so it was not a desirable area for anybody to bomb. So we were spared that. So what pains me and what makes me very sad looking at these people that have to flee not just their country, but flee the bombing and stay safe. It's awful, just awful. So.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your story with us. Yeah, it just kind of hitches. There we go.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. My little script. All right. Our program next week will be presented by our very own Mike Walton, right, Mike? Yes. So spring is just around the corner, and he's going to be talking to us about spring and organic gardening. And if you don't know where to start, you want to be here, as I'm sure Mike will be a wellspring of sage advice. I'm so excited I might wet my plants. All right.
That's it for your.
Before we wrap up, we have our raffle.
Okay. Tickets are a whopping $10.
$10.
Okay, and the last four numbers are 6816.
6816.
Ah,
There we
okay.
go.
Chuck Gibson.
There's $77 in the ace of spades.
77.
So we'll see who has that chance right now. And that is 6811.
811. Roger. Come on down.
Good luck.
No good. Thanks for playing. All right. I think it's time for the four-way test. I think our sign, who has our sign? Does anybody know? Our four-way test sign?
Darnell.
Darnell.
He's right over there.
Oh, I saw him online.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, there he is. Hey, Darnell. All right, I'll pull it up real quick.
Usually stand, don't we?
Yeah, please stand. If you'll repeat after me of the things we think, say, and do. First,
Is it the truth?
Second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
Third,
Will it build more and better friendships?
And fourth,
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Oh, hi. Yes.